Hear ye! The Parliament of Geeks shall now come to order.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Parliament of Geeks, where we ask and answer one simple question: be it weeb or be it scrub. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have four of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the living Wikipedia and the flamboyant flyer, good brother Flutter. We have the man who always finds a new way to laugh at both the Leafs and the Cowboys.
Nah,
Good brother Matty.
don't forget the Colts.
How could I not, especially after Saturday?
Welcome to the playoffs, Monk.
That truly was the greatest game. And making his long-awaited return, the man guiding you through all of your VTubers and your manga dubs, good brother Shades.
Yes, good to be back.
And last but certainly not least, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadare Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix, who I hear is looking to bankroll the Desire Grand Prix.
We'll make it much more fair than it currently is. We'll also make it 10,000 times better. No, wait, 1,000,000 times better. Because we're better than that motherfucker. If you don't get the joke, go back and watch 01.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, when I heard what we were doing tonight, I knew I had to stop in here. Even though I didn't join you guys for the watches, I know this series very well.
Mm-hmm.
I've reviewed this series before, and I need to redeem myself. I'm having to take that video down. Fuck you, Toei. Fuck you, ShowPro.
Yep. So, last time around, we spun the wheel, and the wheel landed on Season 1 of Noragami. So, anybody in the comments bringing up stuff that happened in Season 2, we did not cover that. As far as whether or not we're going to do Season 2, that depends on the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And given the amount of other stuff that's on the wheel, I'd have to say don't count on it anytime soon. Especially don't count on it anytime in early 2023. But Noragami, aka Stray God, which has had 2 seasons. We obviously covered the first one. But as far as giving the elevator pitch and then going into some of the staffers, Shade, since you're back, I'll let you be the evangelist this time.
Yes. Well, first, don't we have a tradition to uphold?
Oh yeah.
You keep forgetting that.
Every time.
Let us continue our tradition, gentlemen.
Yep.
Indeed. Tell you what, I'll lead us off then, since it's my first time back in a while. So, everyone, we ask that you will now rise for our drinking anthem.
Skål!
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 I guess I'll have to be Doku tonight. Here's my bottle of Tennessee honey.
All right, time to sound the yellow horn!
Keep it warm for the playoffs.
And my daughter's now looking at me be pissed off because I screamed like that.
Just let her know this. Actually, know what? Don't tell her this. I was about to say it's better to be pissed off than to be pissed on.
Yeah, I don't think that'd go over well.
No.
I think your wife might kill you if you had said that.
Yeah, she probably would have.
And then I found the way to Minnesota to kill you.
Well, for For me, I'm just enjoying the warmth since it's fucking cold out where I am. Because I'm not sure if you're in the same boat, but we're in a winter storm warning, or at least watch.
Well, we had that big superstorm that plowed through the entirety of North America last week, and we got our 12 inches. I don't know about the rest of the continent, but
Phrasing.
thanks. yeah.
Yeah.
You ran into that one like a rake.
Like a rake, sir.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
Before Kira, before you ask, no, I have no intention of doing a Men Who Stare at Sports Ball regarding the World Cup. Too much shit involved, and I'm not an expert in FIFA. I'm not European enough.
I barely watched it as background noise. It's wonderful ASMR, but
I am
all we're going to sound that is congratulations to Lionel Messi.
He can now ride off into sunsets with the fact that he's pretty much done it all.
Yeah, I heard this. I was watching Philip DeFranco earlier, and he was talking about that. How basically that ending. Holy crap! Apparently that was some tight shit.
tuned into the tail end of the second half where it just got tied 2-2.
You know what's really bad, Maddie? Messi really has done it all, because I know that there was an Argentinian not safe for work artist who made a gender bent not safe for work Messi portrait in celebration.
Wow.
Came across my Twitter.
No.
Okay, I think we're just gonna leave that there and moving right along.
Yep. Rails, ladies and
And
gentlemen. Rails.
And we're walking. So,
Take away, boys.
Brother
On
Shades,
to the pitch. Yes.
Lay it on me, brother.
All right. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, in Japan, they pretty much do not follow one god. They follow many gods. They have gods of all different shapes and sizes for just about any particular event or feeling or emotion that you may have. But what happens when a god is no longer needed? What happens to a god who is no longer thought about? That befalls the fate of one Yato, who was a former god of war. And a very good one at that, practically a legend during his time. But nowadays has all been forgotten. Desperately seeking any attention he can get. Literally doing odd jobs for as little as 5 yen. But one day, he accidentally, in his attempts to help save a precious little kitty, runs afoul of a young teenage girl. And somehow she's able to see him. And her attempts to help him cost her many things. Not her life, but damn close. As she has now been separated. Basically split between the world of the living and the world of the dead. And now she asks for his help to reclaim her, to regain full control of her body, while on the way joining him and his new companion on their crazy adventures, where they learn many things about themselves and each other.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you asking, well, how many gods do they worship? The entire the entire pantheon of Shinto is referred to as the Yao Yorozune, or the 8 million gods.
So, that's the Spaceballs joke going into effect. How many gods we have on this ship anyhow? Yo!
Indeed.
I'm surrounded by gods, asshole gods. Keep firing assholes. You get the idea.
Now, if you've watched enough anime, there are certain aspects of Shintoism that you're gonna end up absorbing just by cultural osmosis. For the same reason that I think a lot of people know about takoyaki, even if they've never actually had it, or
it's yummy, by the way,
or know about onigiri, even though they've never had it.
Jelly donuts? What?
Fuck off!
Damn it.
I can't even be mad at him for that because I was thinking the same damn thing.
And
Hey.
especially if you've seen a slice of life anime, you've seen a Shinto shrine.
And bento boxes.
Yes.
You've seen a Shinto shrine. You may have even seen certain holidays like Tanabata, and the way New Year's happens.
If you watch Super Sentai, you've seen Tanabata every fucking season.
Almost. Just about. Yeah.
Just about every. I'd say every. If it's not on Super Sentai, it's been covered in Kamen Rider. And you're talking to two guys who've done Toku for about 10 years on Twitch. He's not wrong.
Exactly. And side note, for those who don't know what Tanabata is, hello all of you Wukongs, that is when they tie wishes to get them granted by gods as part of what is essentially a winter holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's celebrated in the summer.
And of course,
Like,
we're all
like asking Santa,
we're all familiar in one form or another with the interesting relationship that Japan has with Christmas and chicken.
Yeah.
Christmas, chicken, and
Strawberry cake.
That one was in Karis, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The chicken thing was literally some of the best marketing KFC has ever done in their fucking lives.
Especially since it addicted the entire fucking country.
Yeah.
When a marketing campaign turns into a cultural tradition.
In Japan. That is not a joke.
Yeah,
Fucking
it literally
Google
was a
it.
marketing It was literally a marketing campaign turned into a cultural tradition. I don't know how the fuck you pull that off, but somehow KFC did it.
Would you
Which
say
has been going
that
strong for almost 50 years?
No. You see, if it became the cultural tradition of people to love fried chicken in an entire country, if I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's kind of weird that it happened twice. Because South Korea has the same obsession with fried chicken.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Huh.
And it goes beyond Christmas for them. Fried chicken and Coke is just a thing that is a cultural meal in South Korea at this point.
I will say, even when it comes to weird Christmas traditions, both Japan and South Korea are amateurs to the true kings.
The Philippines.
Yep.
4 months.
That would kill me.
No, that's not a tradition. That's a torture method. They're trying to kill anyone who isn't Filipino.
Like I can barely handle 1 month of Christmas shit. Element Shades, imagine trying to play the Mariah Apocalypse for 4 months.
Yeah, fucking that!
Or the Whamageddon.
4 months, as in September. Shit goes up.
Whamageddon.
They are fucking hardcore.
Zan, have I not introduced you to the Mariah Apocalypse?
Oh, I'm already aware of the Mariah Apocalypse. I know that there's someone in one of the Discord servers that I'm in trying to hit people with it constantly using a very funny video that shrinks to close itself as soon as it starts playing. Which is why I have all videos on Discord on auto mute and auto video off. They're all muted and they don't play unless I hit that fucking button. And even then they play muted.
Yep. But
I will not be sent to Valhalla.
But the reason why I bring up all of that cultural stuff is Noragami goes hardcore when it comes to elements of Shintoism. You will find it a lot to the point where it can become a bit of a scavenger hunt. And
it's my favorite part.
Yeah. Granted, plenty of anime can become a scavenger hunt if you know what you're looking for. And and this is not even the first time that we've had cultural scavenger hunts with something we've talked about. We dipped into this previously with Karas. And to a different extent with Rurouni Kenshin Suyo Kuken.
Yep.
Now, Noragami, which the manga was handled by writer illustrator Adachi Toka. At least that's the pen name that he goes with. I do have to wonder if he's one of those people who uses some sort of weird um, some sort of weird setup as far as and technically speaking, it's two people, Adachi and Tokashiki.
Mm-hmm.
One draws the foreground and characters, the other draws the backgrounds. And as far as their real names, that is not known.
Nor is it
Yeah.
really that important.
No,
No,
but it's
you know who they are, and that's all that matters.
yeah, it's one of those cases of somebody hardcore using a pseudonym, which I can respect. It's keeping kayfabe Mexican style.
Mm-hmm.
Now the anime was handled by Bones, who Bones has a long and illustrious history and tend to be one of the more reliable studios.
Yeah, odds are good if Studio Bones is handling an anime. Odds are good you're gonna have a good experience out of it. Animation wise, they always bring their A game. They rarely fuck things up. They always have some great style to it, and you can see just in this image, like the quality of the splash screen. Because I grabbed an official image to use for this instead of making my own.
Mm-hmm.
That is the quality you see in the actual anime. It is that good looking in the actual anime.
Now,
Which leads me to wonder about season 2, but that's not for this particular broadcast.
Yeah.
now, apparently the director was Kotaro Tamura for the anime, who was the director for both seasons. In fact, pretty much everybody who was involved with season 1 would go over to season 2.
Right.
I'm trying to find some of his previous work. Let me see if I can luck out on my anime list. So he dipped his toe in doing storyboarding for FMA Brotherhood. In fact, most of the stuff he's done has been storyboarding. But storyboarding for a lot of stuff. He did storyboarding for one episode of SAO, one episode of Blue Exorcist, the OP for Bungo Stray Dogs, one episode of Bakano. He storyboarded the OP for both seasons of Bungo Stray Dogs. He did the storyboard for the first Hiro Aka movie. I'm looking if there's any. There's a few episode director credits he has, like one episode of Michiko to Hachin, but a lot of the stuff that that I'm seeing here is either storyboard or episode director, specifically of singular episodes.
Which is a shame because he clearly, based on this series, he can do some amazing work. I don't know why he's not getting better jobs.
Yeah.
The two series where it seems that he had the most involvement beyond just one-offs is Negima and Hero Man. With Negima, he was an episode director for 5 episodes and handled key animation for 1 episode. And for Hero Man, he did storyboard for 4 different episodes. He was episode director for 4 different episodes and the OP. And he did the key animation for 1 episode. It seems that I'd say he's like a journeyman, but most of the stuff that he does is with A1 Pictures and Bones. And a cup of coffee at Group TAC.
Yeah, according to JT Vega, he apparently also did work for Audeka 7.
Yeah, he did, but it was once again just storyboarding for 1 episode.
Yeah, that's the thing. He does this good of work and he's relegated to storyboarding. Come on, guys.
Right?
What are you doing?
Yep. Now the writing for the anime was handled by Deko Akao, which is an alias for singer and screenwriter Hitomi Mieno. So she has a handful of opening and anime credits to her name as far as singles, and a handful of albums. Apparently, she's been doing music since '95.
Nice.
Actually, scratch that, '94. As far as her screenwriting credits, Arakara Under the Bridge, Mysterious Girlfriend X, Pretty Rhythm, Blaze Blue Alter Memory, Eto Tama, Meshimase Lotus Tosenki, which looks like a gag manga, Flying Witch, Snow White with the Red Hair, Frame Arms Girl, After the Rain. Apparently, that's one of the bigger ones. Do you love your mom and her two-hit multi-target attacks? High school prodigies have it easy even in another world. Assassin's Pride, Pokemon Journeys, which she wasn't the main writer for. Hige Hero. Comey Can't Communicate. She was the head writer for that adaptation.
Oh, nice.
Okay, I heard that one was good. I was like, a bit
yes,
worried.
both
There's a lot of those
seasons
other shows. I'm like, not exactly the best credits to her name.
The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. I've heard good things about that, but I haven't seen it.
Same.
And apparently she's got one work that she's got done for next year is Unnamed Memory. And Tier Moon Empire. Those are both supposed to be. Actually, there's apparently 5 projects that are slated to come out in 2023 that she's going to be the head writer for.
Jesus, don't turn into Yasuko Kobayashi over here and overwork yourself, for fuck's sake.
Long story short, lots of experience, some good shit in there.
Some good shit in there, but there's a lot of okay stuff, but even without that, she gets around. She's been doing screenwriting since 2005.
Jeez.
So I'm not gonna claim star-studded when it comes to who's working on it, but you've got some people who clearly have a background working on things, and music is Taku Iwasaki, who has gotten around.
Yeah.
His big break was working on theme songs for The Irresponsible Captain Tyler back in 1995.
Which, of course, some of you may be too young to even know what the hell that is, but it was fantastic.
And
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about it. I've never watched it myself, but I know a lot about it. But yeah, I'm looking at his credits over on A&N. Holy shit.
And apparently one of the upcoming credits that Iwasaki's going to be involved with is Shin Kamen Rider. No, not that one.
Nice.
Yeah, the new one, the new upcoming one. But yeah, all 3 seasons of 2 of the seasons of Black Butler, Bungo Stray Dogs, you mentioned earlier. Oh, he did stuff for Gurren the God. No wonder the music was so damn good. That explains a lot. Yeah. Rurouni did Rurouni Kenshin, Trusted Betrayal. We mentioned that before. We talked about that earlier.
I have that soundtrack on disc.
So,
Nice.
and Soul Eater, which, oh, does that have a fit?
And I can safely say that the music he did for Noragami season 1 is another notch to his credit. Although I do have to wonder if he was taking some notes from Lotus Juice.
I can kind of see it, yeah.
So can I?
It's not a blatant thing, but it is something that you notice. Opening up with these stories, the first thing that we note is, as Shades mentioned, Yato will do any job for 5 yen, and in fact he graffitis his advertisement everywhere,
which is somewhat counterproductive to his goals because of the unique constitution gods have. But he's literally calling himself Delivery God Yato. So,
yeah, one of the key aspects to the story, and mainly to his character, is that he doesn't want to be remembered as a war god anymore because, well, in this society, gods of war aren't as necessary. I mean, there's still some need for them, and certain other character we'll talk about later fits that to a T, but they don't need the kind of war god that Yato was. So he needs to find a new place in the world.
But
he wishes to evolve.
Unnecessary.
the other thing that was always amusing is I can sum up large swaths of this series, and it happens pretty early on, as the universe likes to abuse Yato. To be fair, he kind of sets himself up for it with his ambitious delusions at times.
This boy has delusions of grandeur. Like, we literally get inside his head and get an idea of how he wants to be perceived. And good God, when he wants to look at himself as the greatest of all gods, with swaths of women at his side, feeding him and caring for him like he was the god of gods.
Even though he's still in his smelly tracksuit with the smelly scarf.
Yeah. So basically, for those wanting a comparison, the Cleveland Browns. He is a factory of sadness.
In his head, he's Ric Flair. In actuality, he's Buddy Landell.
Oh. Oh God. Yeah, he is.
No, wait, worse.
Oh, he is.
Terry Landell.
That's a low blow, but he deserves it.
Who's the guy that wanted to be Nature Boy in the I want to make sure I get this right. In the Talking Shop-a-Mania shows.
I haven't seen
He's
Bill
that
in a
guy.
while. But I had to bring up Terry Landell because of that story. You know, the one where Cornette almost ran him over. And the bailiff was like, "Too bad you missed."
Now, I do want to throw out a little bit of a theory on this. I don't think all of this bad luck for Yato is entirely his own fault. Yes, his illusions of grandeur certainly don't help matters, but the fact that he has to try to fight against what he's supposed to be, I think the universe kind of punishes him for it. Like,
in that regard, he reminds me of. In that regard, you can compare him to Destruction of the Endless from Sandman.
Yeah,
because Destruction is he is constantly trying to do things that are against his nature of, well, destruction. Since the Endless are a step above the gods in the fact that they try and embody very broad concepts.
Right.
yes.
Such as dream. Destruction is trying to go against that, but everything that he tries to create is awful. He tries to create art, and his art is the ugliest thing anyone's ever seen.
So
But he
even in
keeps
creation,
trying.
he destroys.
Yeah.
Yes. The biggest thing here is, while Shades did say he's a god of war, the specific type of god of war that Yato is known as a god of calamity. Great,
yes, you are correct.
great downfall, great doom follows a god with such a title or
Yeah.
epithet.
But when it
So-
comes to him getting knocked down a peg, I mentioned this when we were doing the watch party. In a weird roundabout way, he reminds me of Edward Elric.
And I told him I saw it, and I still see it.
Mostly because you've got people who are good people, have some baggage, have a bit of ego, and constantly get picked on by the universe. Sometimes of their own volition, and sometimes not.
Right.
That's pretty much that sums up Yato very well here.
The only difference between the two is that Yato is not vertically challenged in the same way.
He's actually, not shorter than everybody else. He's about average height for an adult male in Japan, which still makes him shorter than Monk or myself.
Yeah, but low bar.
Well,
but
yeah, right.
literal low bar.
But
he's probably roughly around my height.
But then we have the second half, because Noragami does something that is right in the wheelhouse of how Zan and I create narratives. We have never been fond of that one protagonist. We'd rather split the load among multiple protagonists. You can go back and see it in most of the building the equation stuff that we did. We always had two. We always had at least two protagonists. We had it with Magical Shonen. We had it with Secret Guardians. And I think the only time we didn't have it was Combined Arms Mecha, but even in that case we had a whole squad, so you could say we still had it.
With that we did more of a Gundam 00 reference of having one main guy, but you're still following the whole squad.
Mm-hmm. But that brings us to the second protagonist after Yato loses his first regalia. He
doesn't lose Tsurune.
No, she quit
to retire, and he's like, fine.
Because
she outright quit.
Because he's broke. Because he's broke and he's homeless.
Mm-hmm.
He's broke and he's homeless. He has no temple and no. To quote some of my favorite things, he has no bitches and stacks no paper.
Yeah. So she gets fed up with him in the first episode. It's like, all right, fuck this, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me go, please, for the love of God. And finally he relents, and she goes off to a more well-renowned god and works with him instead.
But we aren't there yet.
We'll get to that. That was just setting up.
But we later get introduced to our secondary protagonist, Hiyori Iki, who is seems
a girl
to be
after all our own hearts.
Seems to be is certainly a sociable girl, but also one who seems to have very interesting tastes.
I would disagree calling her the secondary protagonist. I would refer to her more as the audience surrogate.
Yeah,
that is more accurate.
The audience surrogate.
She's still a protagonist within the group, though.
And apparently a massive MMA fan.
Oh, like I said, a girl after our own hearts.
Hold on. I must prep a button. I must prep a button if I can find it. I know I have it. By
the way, while Shades is looking for that, Maddie, the wrestler you're thinking of is Paul Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Living Wikipedia. We appreciate it. You have served your purpose once again.
Of course, when I need to find a button, I can never find the damn thing. But I'll just do it. I love the kind of girl that can kick my ass.
Of course.
That's the problem. But even her friends are a bit weirded at her enthusiasm for mixed martial arts.
Her friends are weirded at a lot of shit she does.
No, she's not exactly a normal girl, especially by Japanese standards.
Mm-hmm.
No, not at all.
But where our god and this girl's cross paths is
at the most appropriate place, a crosswalk.
Mm-hmm. A crosswalk, yes, but around this time, Yato was doing one of his odd jobs, that being finding a cat named Milord, which ends up being a bit of a twist in that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And she ends up spotting him, and thinking that he's He's getting that in walking through the middle of the street, he's going to get hit by not Truck Coon, but Bus Coon.
So she goes to push him out of the way. Well,
The typical the typical self-sacrifice rescue trope.
Mm-hmm.
the one that, has probably been popularized since time immemorial, but let's just name a few, like Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, that was my first thought.
I mean,
That was my first thought.
ghosts, gods, paranormal, and someone getting hit by a vehicle. Yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah,
Lines up.
that it does.
But while she does recover in a nearby hospital,
Where her father works.
mm-hmm.
Or is it owned by her father? I forget which.
There's some odd things going about when she is properly introduced to Yato. Namely, cattail.
She suddenly has a tail.
And
Also, she looks over and I think she can see her own body.
yeah,
Yeah.
her spirit is not securely tethered to her body, so sometimes her spirit goes out. And as far as anyone else is concerned, she's just taking a nap.
It's seen as narcolepsy on their end.
Yeah. Which it would look that way from the outside. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So can I. That is realistic.
But things end up making a turn for the worse when a phantom shows up, which is what the translation goes with. But I believe the name that it's supposed to be, and this is not the first time we've had issues with this kind of thing, is Ayakashi.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Phantom is as good a translation for that as anything.
It doesn't bug me as much as yokai being called demons.
Yeah.
Yeah, yokai
thing
are not
with-
demons.
The thing with the Ayakashi is that basically, whenever you have negative emotions, they tend to be released in the forms of these Ayakashi. Some are small, manageable, not a problem. But when you have a large concentration of negative emotions in one place, mainly places like hospitals, schools during test time, things like that, they tend to build up into something a little more problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I
they
think,
will.
I think the specific reason they use Ayakashi here, the reference to the land of the living and the land of the dead in Noragami are the near shore and the far shore.
Yes.
The shores, in this case, of something like the Sanzu River in Shinto and Buddhist belief. And Ayakashi originally, a long, long time ago, were another yokai that appeared above the surface of water, kind of like will-o-wisps do in bogs. And they're considered, the souls of the people there who may have died on the water. And since everything has to do with crossing to the far shore and crossing to the land of the dead, the Ayakashi are those with grudges, with resentment that cannot cross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what they will often do in this series is they will, if someone is feeding them their negative emotions, the Ayakashi will essentially latch onto them. They will target them and kind of create a cycle, a loop of negativity. And this is represented in the first episode when we see a girl who's getting picked on, getting bullied, struggling, stressing out, and you can see that she's on the verge of suicide because the Ayakashi's feeding that negativity into her as much as she's putting out.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why one of the gods' secondary jobs is to deal with those Ayakashi before they become a problem.
But they are not able to do it on their own. They require a divine instrument, or also known as a regalia. And if they don't have one, they're essentially unarmed.
this has to do with the unique nature of what regalia are and what they have as an ability that we'll get into later.
Yeah.
But they all slay phantoms, the Ayakashi, to purify Japan. In fact, in Yato's whole shtick, whenever he kills one, he even says that this is the land of the rising sun, and that the vast defilement of the Ayakashi will be expelled. It gets very formal, in fact, and the Japanese version's even more formal. It's very archaic Japanese that he speaks.
It kind of turns into like they kind of have to use stock footage for this kind of thing, where
They
They do.
They use a lot of stock
go
footage
full
for
stock
it.
footage because they have to have this like almost kind of ceremony as they power up their regalia to cleanse these Ayakashi.
Mm-hmm.
And something that not everybody noticed that I had to point out to some of y'all later was when the Ayakashi, when the phantoms are slain, they explode and then recoalesce into symbols of light that then scatter out. And those symbols of light are the names of every dead person that an Ayakashi has consumed to grow stronger.
Yep.
Those are names, and they're being sent back into the cycle of reincarnation.
Like
I was always, honestly, I always wondered about that. I knew there was some significance to those things. I just didn't know what it was. So thank you for enlightening me on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, the early thing that we lost Flutter. The early thing that Hiyori ends up learning is, one, a lot of her natural abilities are significantly higher in this spirit form, but it comes with significant weaknesses. One is that tail is not just a tail; it's a tether. If that tail gets damaged, she won't be able to go back to her body.
Well, severed, actually.
Yeah.
It can get damaged, but if it gets cut, she's dead forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Two,
Also,
she is akin to Golden Age Sewerman in terms of being able to be more powerful than a locomotive and leap tall buildings in a single bound.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But because she is not a god, she is merely a spirit. Oh, is she basically she's Ayakashi food. She smells very nice to them.
Yeah, if anytime you hear the phrase "smells nice," that's a cue to fucking run.
I'd like to point out that smells nice only occurs after she's encountered Yato.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same for another character we'll get to later. It's not her that smells nice. It's not the other character that smells nice. It's the smell of Yato that's rubbed off on them that smells nice.
But
Yeah.
she thinks that she could just grab any spirit to act as a regalia, and ends up getting chased by a crab-shaped phantom.
Thinking that you could use this one, right? And he's like, "What the hell? That's a phantom!"
I mean, to her credit, this is all new to her. She doesn't know what the fuck's going on. She's just going with what she knows.
What is needed is an uncorrupted spirit, which some may argue this is convenient, some may argue otherwise, but they happen to luck out by finding a spirit who is given the name Yukine.
As a mortal, Yuki; as a weapon, Seki.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing about the regalia. They have basically 3 names that they're given. They're basically their human name, their spirit name, and their weapon name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And after the first off, I should note, I've seen a lot of people refer to Yukine's weapon form Seke as a katana. Not exactly.
It is a hiltless sword. It could be a katana where a hilt and tsuba attached to it, but there is a specific term for the type of sword he is.
It's I believe it was Otsuki. I'm mispronouncing, but this is basically a straight sword that is kind of the precursor to what we would consider katanas.
Which is probably why a lot of people confuse it for a katana, because it look like if you don't know the different types of weapon names, all you're gonna see is a katana.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I would also argue that the artwork for Yukine's weapon form is more curved than most Otsuki are in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I have to correct myself. The name is a Chokuto.
Oh yes,
not an Otsuki. I don't know why I was thinking that, but they were in Okuto is meant to was kind of the straight sword brother to Tachi's.
Well,
and
it depends on what version of Tachi you're talking about, because Chokuto could also be referred to as Tachi up until the Heian period of Japan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The point is that they are an early precursor to what would be katanas, and were probably based on trying to replicate or at least do a spin on some of these swords that were being imported from China at the time, because it has more in common with a jian than it does a katana.
Yeah. Though I do wonder how, like, I get the sense that many of the regalia, like their weapon forms are connected to how they were as a person, how they were in life.
I can see that.
Because when we see later regalia, you could definitely sense a lot of their connection, a lot of how they act and how they were in their previous life, reflected in their weapon form. So I get this, it makes you kind of wonder what kind of life Yukine had before. We know some of it, as we'll get into later, but I wonder how much of that reflected him becoming a Chokuto.
Yeah, but shortly after that, we have a Monster of the Week moment with a hand-based phantom that is using a railroad track as its nest and making people commit suicide by train.
Ugh.
But what could be argued as not necessarily a dick move, but certainly an insensitive move is the remark that Yato has on the topic of suicide. Which it's more of a misunderstanding, because the way he said it sounds like he has contempt for people who wish to Minecraft themselves. But it's really that he doesn't like those who don't value being alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of sense I get, because for someone like him, especially with all the effort he's going through to keep himself in existence, given that if he becomes too unknown, he literally dies. So for him, the idea of not existing just seems so foreign and wrong to him that as someone else who would literally just throw all that away for nothing, it just seems disgusting to him.
Yep. After that story, we end up getting introduced to another god, Kofuku, who
no. Her name is Kofuku Ebisu, or at least that's what she says.
Which threw me off for a moment, because I am
threw y'all off. I thought it was hilarious.
Well, it threw me off for a second because of what we'd learn later, but Ebisu is one of the 7 lucky gods, and is typically referred to as the god of hard work.
Not in this series.
Not at all.
They flipped the script on this one, boys.
Well, Yeah, we also get introduced to her regalia, Daikoku, who I would not want to get on his bad side.
Not at all.
Big old teddy bear when you're friendly with him, but he will fuck you up if you piss him off.
Uh-huh.
That and he has a very easy resting rage face.
Yes, he does.
And
Yes, he does.
it doesn't. Although in hindsight, I should have used one of my age-old gags given his dub voice actor.
Yes, Ian
God
Sinclair.
damn it, Ian.
Though to be fair, a very much more downplayed role for Ian. He's not as eccentric as he usually is.
That's the reason why I didn't invoke it.
Yeah. Truth be told, if Daikoku was revealed to have been like a good yakuza, someone who like was a yakuza but fought for the right reasons, I wouldn't put it past him.
Mm-hmm.
Neither would I, considering his personality.
Yeah,
He'd get along
that's
with
the vibe I
Kiryu.
get.
He'd get along with Kiryu. I'd say
Yes, he
that
would.
so long.
Yes, he would.
He would not get along with somebody else from the Yakuza series. You know exactly who I'm going for, Sam.
Of course.
Even I know who. I think I know who you're talking about. Given I've at least
As do I.
I have some passing knowledge of the Yakuza franchise.
Because if he shows up out of a cone, he'd just get punched.
So, Monk, there's a better comparison to make here for Daifuku. Gokushufudo, the way of the house husband. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not. Also, hi there, Brian. Welcome to the shit show. But the job of the week ends up because plenty of gods are perfectly willing to give jobs that they think would be low grade over to Yato, because as we've established, he'll take any job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's to deal with a man named Yusuke who has gone a bit suicidal because of the misfortune after falling in love with a girl. And after a whole bit of backstory, Yato's like, "Do you have a photo of this girl?" Which Yusuke shows. He's like, "Oh fuck." Like, yeah, this girl, she's the goddess of poverty.
Yeah.
Because it's Kofuku.
Mm-hmm.
That's her role in this. She is the god. She is a calamity god of poverty, and oh boy, she definitely lives up to that name.
Since after going out with said girl, his company went to shit and he went broke.
It's funny. I actually voiced a manga dub a while back, a couple months ago, that had a very similar story to this one, where a guy ends up going out with a goddess of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is that he ends up happy in the end.
But in order to fix the issue, we had Yukine is used to do a technique known as sunder. Essentially, instead of cutting, say, a phantom, cutting ties between people.
Mm-hmm.
But in the aftermath, Hiyori ends up learning that Yato was a god of calamity in the past, and referred to him as a very scary god. One who was
even known. Yep. Never mind. Go ahead.
One who's even willing to kill regalia or even other gods.
Which we'll get to regarding a certain character.
Mm-hmm.
We will definitely get to that, but yeah, it's a case of you look through him throughout these first few episodes. He seems so jovial, very happy-go-lucky, very goofy. Then you see what he used to look like back in the old days, and oh boy, you didn't want to fuck with this guy.
He's just Kenshin with blue eyes.
He really is. He
Yeah,
looks
really.
like fucking Kenshin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, minus the scar.
And spoiler warning: it's not going to be the last time we bring up Kenshin with this, but it's shortly after that that Yukine ends up being taught another technique, borderline. Essentially, all regalia have the innate ability to create barriers. And for the most part, these barriers work really well at keeping phantoms out.
And it is also the skill with a barrier that determines how useful a regalia is for rending phantoms. This is part of the reason why they need the regalia. The borderline is drawn between the regalia and the far shore.
Mm-hmm. But after a bit of an argument, Hiyori has Yuki stay at her house because in her mind, Yato's not doing a good job at keeping an eye on him.
No.
Oh, but this
is where we go about fucking teenagers.
Yeah, there's the whole thing. Up until this point, Yukine has done some things that are not exactly pure, and every time that happens, Yato feels a bit of pain in his neck and gets annoyed with Yukine.
Understandably so.
Basically telling him every time you're committing sin, it reflects on me. Though he doesn't do the best job at explaining what exactly is meant by this.
Exactly what the extent is either.
Yeah.
And this will come back to haunt both of them later.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing that's revealed is that there's a reason why a god like Yato would sleep in temples, because temples are protected, and Yukine is afraid of the dark.
Not to mention, the temple holy water can be used to wash away any damage from blight caused by phantoms when they're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But while off on his own, he ends up finding the spirit of a girl who died in a traffic accident, and tries to help out. But then the rug gets pulled out from under you when all of a sudden said girl talks about something smelling nice.
Yeah.
Oof.
She essentially became possessed by a phantom. And because of that, that girl had to be taken down, because once you end up going through that possession, once you cross that line, there's no coming back.
No, you have to die.
You have to be cleansed, more specifically.
You have to be
Yes,
cleansed.
they're already dead.
Right.
But this ends up furthering the rift between the god and the regalia, and of course that's taking its toll on Yato. Because
the fact is that Yukine begged Yato to save the little girl, and Yato said, "There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
She has been possessed. She is now a phantom. She's been consumed by that larger phantom and become a part of it. The only way to save her is to put her back into the cycle of reincarnation, but she has to be cleansed."
Also, I should have mentioned earlier, when it came to the whole thing with the railroad track, that was a job that was commissioned by Tenjin, the god of learning, who has the kind of shrine that Yato is envious of, And
It's
also
also-
has his former regalia, even if she's under a different name now.
Yep, she's now Mayu.
Hmm.
But Tenjin's
A bit of a dick.
kind of, but I mean, as a very, very big god, he kind of has the big dick energy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big thing is that Tenjin's temple. This is one of those moments, if you're playing Cultural I Spy, it's a very famous temple that you can see pretty easily if you look it up.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Tenjin,
He's not the only god here that has a scenario like that.
yeah, his domain is academics, scholarship, learning, and intelligentsia. Also, he is a deification of Sugiwara no Michizane, who is a scholar and politician in the Heian era.
Mm-hmm. He's
And
a
given
human.
that modern day Japan is all about academics, it makes sense that that Tenshin would be a well-renowned god.
Hmm.
It does.
But this also shows you that he's a human who ascended to godhood after his death, which is important for later on in this season.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
But getting back to where we were, just when you would think that things can't get any worse with the rift between our three protagonists, and then
What they do.
things do get worse, because then Bishamon shows up, aka
Who is the other?
one of the seven lucky gods, aka also known as Vaisravanya or Vesavana in Sanskrit, and Vesavana in Tibetan, as well as one of the four heavenly kings.
Yep. And she is the other god that has an instance of her shrine being, or her temple being at an actual landmark.
Yeah,
Although the one that we see in the show, while very famous, is also not nearly as pronounced as Tenjin's,
Hmm.
yeah,
because it's kind of in a back alley between buildings.
yeah.
but-
But the reason behind that is she like Yato is essentially a god of war, but she's not really a god of calamity.
No.
Yes.
She's more about she's more of a strategic god.
She's about strength, honor, courage, and those sorts of things that you would put into being warlike, but for a good reason.
Hmm.
Again, this is also why she's the leader of the seven fortunate gods.
Hmm.
But she's also got a bit of a chip on her shoulder.
A massive chip. She, for various reasons, she absolutely despises Yato and treats him as a kill on sight target.
Yep.
The reason for that is Yato killed one of her regalia a long time ago.
Yeah. And she harbors a grudge towards him for that.
A grudge that even
A lot of sorry, go ahead.
a grudge that even I, the grudge bearer, find a bit excessive.
It's not until season 2 we really get to learn what happened and why things ended up the way they did. But
that's
you can
season
immediately
2.
tell that, like, even just in this first season, you can tell that there's clearly something more going on with that story than either side is letting on. Like, you can tell that there's a lot more going on as to why she thinks that she has this grudge and why Yato doesn't seem bothered by it, honestly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But of course, Yato is not in any real condition to fight against Bishamon, and even when he's asked about why he killed a regalia, his answer doesn't exactly do him any favors, since he says because I wanted to at the time.
Yeah.
Which
An impulse kill.
Well,
Yeah,
and that
a
just
lot,
causes
a lot of
Yuki
people
to
think it's
despair
not
further.
satisfying, but more often than not, even the truth can't be satisfying. Isn't satisfying.
mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's one of those cases where it doesn't take much to read between the lines and go, there's something he's not telling us about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in an attempt to stop the matter, Kofuku shows up and uses Daikoku, which is a case of the overest of overkill.
It's like, there's no kill quite like overkill.
The only thing Kofuku can do with Daikoku, which is the vessel name of Daifuku, is blow open holes into the fucking underworld. These are called vents, and they let out giant storms of negative energy and create massive amounts of phantoms.
Which is why when she came out with that thing, Yato was like, "Oh shit, this is not gonna end well."
By the way, did you guys hear the button I hit by chance?
Yeah,
I did.
Everyone? Okay, good. Just double checking.
But yeah, he's like, oh, fuck, this is about to get worse, isn't it?
Yep. Because remember, it can always get worse. Granted, hitting the nuke does provide enough of a distraction for him to get out of sight, especially since one of the many regalia that she has, Kazuma, is able to be the voice of reason in this situation.
It's like, I get you have your grudge, but right now we've got a little bit of a more important matter to deal with here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Kazuma also gives a bow of respect to Yato as they're running away.
Which
Mhm.
which technically is not necessary.
Yeah, he's a regalia of a much higher ranked god and a god that is Yato's enemy at that.
Mm-hmm.
There should be no reason to bow to Yato.
Yeah.
And yet he does, so it gets you thinking, doesn't it? Like, okay, now I definitely know there's something going on here.
Get your noodle noggin.
And as a regalia, he tends to be the coordinator for all of the other regalia that she has.
Because she has like fucking 12
Mm-hmm.
that she uses on the regular.
Yeah, just the ones she uses on the regular. Slight spoiler, we're for running season 2. She's got much more than that.
Mm-hmm. But Kazuma, the best way to describe Kazuma is trying to be the sane man in a room full of insane people. Because
Not the easiest of jobs.
No, it isn't.
And he, especially since he's willing to help Hiyori, even though that might be going against his God's wishes.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a point later where Hiyori is once again out of her body, and she sees Bishamon going around killing phantoms. And Kazuma sees her before Bishamon sees her, goes over, freezes her up, and also hides her presence.
Mm-hmm.
So that when Bishamon comes to ask Kazuma, have we killed everything in this sector? She doesn't see or hear of Hiyori.
Yep.
Because Bishamon would absolutely send her to the far shore very quickly.
That she would.
It's also at this point that we figure out that this half in, half out that Hiyori has been experiencing is called, at least in the English dub, being a half phantom. Which is why Bishamon would send her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's against the order of the land of the rising sun.
But he also gives Hiyori a warning that the antics that Yukine has been doing up until this point, it is going to kill Yato, because the blight that he's been dealing with has been getting worse and worse as the story has gone on.
And we got an explanation just before this that the reason for the blight is gods are not living creatures. They are created from the desires of humanity or from the processes of creation. As such, there is no right or wrong for a god. They can do whatever they want. It is through their connection to their regalia that they gain a connection to humanity and to living. And thus it is their regalia that inflict upon them both the pain and the joys of life. So when a regalia sins, the sin does not stain their soul. It stains their master as the one who named them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very dangerous thing.
And it gets even worse because during one job where Yato is working at a convenience store,
This.
which resulted in one of my favorite gags because midway through working on this job, Kofuku shows up and Yato's immediately like, "Get the fuck out! You are not bringing any poverty to this job." Literally kicks her out.
When they figure out who she is, who this poor guy was dating was like the god of poverty, I'm like, oh.
Like I said, literally kicks her out because he's not taking any chances.
Nope.
Granted, in doing that,
Get the fuck out of here!
in doing that, getting an earful from Daikoku because he is very protective of his god.
Yep.
As one should be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at this point that Yato gets stung once again.
Mostly because Yukine decided to steal charity money.
Well, remember that first they check the registry. He's like, "Oh, you really think I'd steal money?" But then he starts running out and drops the charity box.
Mm-hmm.
Which gives a clear indication of it's like, oh shit, he was lying.
Lying, stealing, and cheating.
Yeah.
Good Freddy Guerrero, not for everyone
I was
else.
thinking the same thing, man.
And it should be noted in that same episode that because of the frayed relationship, Yukine wanted to leave Yato, but Tenjin explains to Hiyori that regalia who jump around between gods are referred to as Nora, which is the name that we saw with that strange woman that we saw earlier, who had.
I don't think we brought her up before.
Yeah, we didn't because she showed up a handful of times in kind of the background in a "I know more than I'm letting on" kind of way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever she shows up, Yato is always made angry by her appearance, which is rare for Yato.
It is.
There's a couple odd things with her. One is her wearing the headband that's typically seen on Japanese ghosts. And two, she has a lot of characters tattooed on
A lot
her.
of names on her body.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She has many different names, and you're only a Nora if you keep the name of a previous owner while seeking the names of new ones. Which is why Mayu is not considered a Nora, because she properly was discharged from being Tsurune by Yato, and then took up residence with Tenjin as Mayu. Mm-hmm. The big thing that we find out about Nora is that some gods may use them for work they don't want to be given to their normal regalia. Essentially, shade work, backdoor dealings, or if we want to get even worse, kind of like wet work for all of the world's intelligence agencies.
Yeah.
It's those backdoor dealings, those things where you don't want your name attached to it, but you still have to get it done.
I know what some of you might be thinking. Not really, but close enough.
Tenjin's other regalia seem to look at Nora's like that. Just bringing them up, gives them bad vibes.
Mhm.
It makes them a little disgusted.
Hmm.
But Nora has been constantly annoying the hell out of Yato and undermining Yukine, simply because Nora keeps telling Yato, "You can always use me as a regalia. Just use the name you gave me," because she was at one point Yato's regalia back when he was still a god of calamity in the Sengoku period.
But he's like, "Fuck you! I'm not the same god."
Hmm. Now, Eve. Now, yeah. Even when it comes to dealing with phantoms, Yato ends up. There's the question of if he's going to be this much of a problem child, why are you keeping him around? And
I can't leave him. I love him.
Exactly.
in dealing with a moth phantom, Yato ends up making a telling remark that I will reforge you.
Yep.
And the reason why I say it's telling is it kind of shows his mindset as far as why he's keeping him around. He's dropped hints on multiple occasions that he sees a great deal of potential talent within Yukine, and he wants to cultivate that talent. But shortly after that, we do have another case of the Phantom of the Week, which fortunately, because of the few amount of episodes, we don't have that as much, which I actually consider a benefit to the shorter season leanings that we see these days. You can't really do Monster of the Week as much, but
No.
But Yato ends up getting summoned because of a student named Manabu Ogiwara who's being bullied.
Summoned into the girls' bathroom because that's where Manabu is hiding, which, of course, Hiyori and Yukine are both in that bathroom too.
Mm-hmm. Which ends up with the question of how many lumps.
Yeah.
2 or 3. Pow, pow, pow.
But Manabu ends up being encouraged by a shadow to kill his bully.
By a phantom.
Mm-hmm. But he ends up overcoming even after Yato pulls a very dangerous move and gives him a pocket knife.
One of those hobby knives or box cutter knives that you've seen in numerous anime with high schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Manabu is able to not give in and keep his humanity. Although in the process end up making his bully literally piss himself. But I think this was presented as a form of contrast because at the same time, Yukine is acting like a fucking teen, anguishing over the fact that he isn't able to experience high school like a living person.
Yeah, Teen Angst hit some hard on this one.
And he gets so pissed off on the matter that he starts breaking windows, which, again, that is a regalia committing sin, which is making Yato's condition worse. To the point where large swaths of that blight are covering his back.
And
he can no longer hide it at this point.
Well, it's worse than that. This is the point where he collapses.
Mm-hmm.
They're still at the school, and Yato collapses due to Yukine's negative actions, and Hiyori again falls out of her body. But this time it's not so humorous because she's picking up Yato as her spirit form, which means the blight spreads to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Which
drags...
considering she's... Go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, and she drags Yukine by force of personality, and Yato, literally, back to Kofuku. And she's standing there begging for help, and Daifuku freaks the fuck out and draws a borderline between them and, Kofuku's equivalent of a shrine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which completely devastates Hiyori, by the way. She's like, but why?
Especially since there's been the mindset of if anything goes south, you can go to these two for help.
Yeah.
The one time she does, they all practically shut her out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second time that she does it. This is when they're just like, no, fuck this. And so eventually Daifuku lets Hiyori, and only Hiyori, in. Telling Yukine to stay out there, and Yato has to stay out there because he could potentially blight Kofuku.
Mm-hmm.
And she's let in to use their shower because their shower is hooked up straight up to the holy water well in the back. Explains
if you're
the
gonna
situation.
use a holy water shower, I'm pretty sure you want to put some ceramic tile in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it
That
was a
shit
normal
burns.
shower area. But afterwards, she comes out, she gets to explain what's happening, and both Kofuku and Daifuku are just like, he needs to get rid of that boy. And of course, Hiyori, having been friends with Yukine, is like, but why? Because he'll die if he doesn't. Isn't there any other way? And they mention a procedure called ablution. Now, for those who are not aware of what ablution is, it actually was originally a religious term as a cleansing of one's sins.
Yeah.
In most cases, either through ritualistic uses of water, which is, if you've ever seen the classic monk scenes of someone underneath a waterfall, that is an ablution.
Mm-hmm.
But ablution can happen in other ways as well. In some cases, figuratively or literally giving your pound of flesh.
Yeah.
And
Who here is familiar with a monk flail?
I am.
I raise my hand.
You should be if you've seen the Da Vinci Code because you saw one.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I remember that
Yeah,
scene.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Google that fucker. You should always just Google that fucker.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. But Daifuku mentions that in order to perform an ablution, they need 3 other regalia, because it is up to regalia to judge other regalia for their sins.
Mm-hmm.
The gods cannot do it. And so...
Now,
It's
for
outside
those
of
wondering,
it's
the
outside of
majority-
God's jurisdiction.
yeah.
Fiction.
So for those wondering, the majority of regalia basically went this.
yeah.
Just
Daifuku
shorten
decides...
the trip there for everybody.
Yeah. Daifuku decides that he's going to drive around in the Humvee we only start seeing now to every temple he can to ask for just one regalia for assistance. Just one.
Mm-hmm.
And he does succeed at Tenjin. Tenjin himself is not willing to lend a regalia. But Mayu, having once been regalia for Yato, concludes that they still have karma. And that while he was a poor god, and that was the issue that she had, he was not a bad master. And goes with Daifuku. But it's the only regalia he can get. Hiyori at that time, she's still been resting with Kofuku. And as she's hearing about failure after failure, she leaves to look for a regalia on her own. And at first, she toys with the idea of maybe contacting Nora, who would want to help Yato. But she throws that idea away because she's pretty sure that Nora would just kill Yukine to get it over with.
Yeah.
So eventually, the only regalia she can think of, the only regalia she knows doesn't have completely negative feelings towards Yato or anyone associated with him, she goes to find Kazuma, the right hand of Bishamon. At the temple that we mentioned before, one of Bishamon's most famous temples in Tokyo, she's yelling outside the shrine, and they're all in some sort of strategy meeting, and one of the other regalia comes in and says, Kazuma, somebody's yelling for you at the front of this shrine. And Kazuma's like, they're not even bowing or giving an offering? Fuck them. Which is just him covering his tracks, because he appears... Exactly. He shortly appears outside and grabs her over the mouth. He's like, what are you doing here? If Bishamon sees you, you'll fucking die!
Yeah.
And she's like, but Yato's dying and I need a third regalia for an ablution? And he's like, oh, fuck, I owe him, so I gotta do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, something we learn along the way, especially at Tenjin's shrine, is ablutions are dangerous. A regalia that is being judged by the other regalia must accept their sins, confess their sins, and ask for the forgiveness of their sins from their peers. If they do not, it becomes very dangerous. A regalia turns into a super phantom and either must be killed or will consume the other regalia and anyone else around.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So when Daifuku gets back with Mayu and Hiyori gets back with Kazuma, which freaks the fuck out of everybody.
It's like, in the sense of, okay, how the fuck did you manage to bring him?
Yes, essentially. And he says, I owe him, essentially. They draw a triangle of borderlines around Yukine after telling him to take off his shirt, which reveals that his shirt is infected with phantom eyes. Or his back is. Yes, his back is. Excuse me. And he's freaking out. He says, get him off me! And they're like, well, this is the only way to do it. And they start the ablution. He's like, but I didn't do anything wrong! Don't you get it? We're not them! Why can't we live like them? Which is, of course, because Yukine is a teenager and died as a teenager. Of course, he's feeling envy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as he's railing against these things that are occurring, his body starts morphing more and more into a phantom, and his mean-spirited remarks become more and more threatening, like everyone else should just die to be like me. Which...
Stay off the weed!
Random, but it's one of those, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely teen angst, but it's teen angst of someone who's already dead, which I imagine would be 100 times worse.
Yeah,
so do I.
pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we get some inner monologue from Yato, who's like, no, you can't do that. If you cross that line, you can't ever come back. You have to stop. And it's in his mind's eye, he's watching Yukine dressed in the traditional Shinto death garb of a white outer garb, walking towards the far shore and becoming corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And Yato, he says, I just have to call out to him. But he literally doesn't have the strength to say things. And then Hiyori calls out to him and tells him, what about the people who care about you here? Essentially. And that's when he breaks down and he starts talking about how he stole stuff and broke shit, and he didn't want it to happen, and he was really sorry. He didn't want to hurt Yato. He didn't want to hurt anyone. And that is when the ablution starts, well, actually working, because he accepted that he did wrong. And by sunup, Yato is no longer blighted, Yukine is no longer phantomized, and all three of the other regalia are exhausted. But happy, because the two are crying in each other's arms.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It worked.
Granted, it took Hiyori threatening to break off their friendship if he didn't knock it off.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for doing so, considering he was being an absolute dick.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But the ablution process is definitely is very indicative of Japanese culture and Shintoism, that you are judged by your peers and sentenced by your peers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
It
I do see the ablution as a turning point. I think it was always at this point, like both times I watched the series twice now. This was the point where this series won me over. Like I'd already started enjoying the series, but this is the point where I was like, okay, this series is damn good because it made you feel the pain.
It made
coming
you
off of
care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made you get invested in Yukine and all these other characters.
You start to really understand the angst going through Yukine. You already kind of got a sense of it when you started to really see why he was acting out, but then you get to see what he was really feeling, and that emotion, that angst, that rage, that why does this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You feel that, and it hits you hard.
This is one of the moments where one of my friends had to make a joke while watching. He said, "Fuck you, director. I came here to laugh at Yato, not feel."
Again, we talked about the director for this. Why is he not directing more anime?
Exactly.
Any director that can make you feel like that should be one of the best top directors in the industry right now. Seriously.
I have to note, once again, looking at his entire filmography, this is the only anime, both seasons and the OVAs, that he has been director for the entire process. He's never been a director for a full series beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know why. What did he do?
Why?
Maybe he was just too good at his job.
Apparently.
Then again, maybe he was maybe he's, who knows? Maybe he's a nightmare to work with.
Either that, or maybe it's also possible that he just sees himself as a journeyman kind of guy.
Yep.
Oh.
There's many reasons, we don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just as things seem to be calming down, we see that Nora has awoken a god who goes by the name of Rabo.
And it's here that I have to note that this is all anime exclusive. These are not from the manga at this point.
Yeah. Anime. Yeah, this is anime original content.
And I think doing this was a case of getting themselves out of a corner, because they only had 3 episodes left, but it's not like they could just jump straight into the next arc. They wouldn't have enough for that.
Yeah, the next arc, which was the start of season 2, was a big one. There was no way they were going to squeeze that much into 3 episodes. It would have been ridiculous, and it would have been rushed, and we would have hated it.
And doing 3 beach episodes in a row would be a terrible idea.
So
Monk, we could have done a beach episode, and then a Christmas episode, and then a New Year's episode.
Or one beach episode and another beach episode, and the third one ends at a bash at a beach.
One problem,
both
though.
of you fuck off.
one problem, though. These were airing in March.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there lies the problem.
But this 3 episode arc that's anime exclusive. I do wonder if the original writer had helped out a little bit.
I think so. Especially considering we get an introduction to Masked Ayakashi.
Yeah.
Which builds further in season 2, but again, that's for a different discussion at a different time.
Yeah.
At the very least, what I will give credit for is that this anime exclusive arc doesn't feel that far out of place.
It doesn't feel out of place at all, in my opinion.
Not at all.
No, in fact,
which is a rarity for these kind of arcs. That's why I don't think we hate on it as much, because it's when it feels like it's just out of nowhere. But here it does kind of build off of what we've already been starting to establish, and it leads into this anime arc with pretty good fluidity, which again is rare.
Yeah, and it also expands slightly on Yato's backstory, considering the fact that that Rabo knows him from when they were both gods of war.
Oh,
if I had to compare, if I had to make a parallel, I'm reminded of the arc with Jine in Rurouni Kenshin. This being the first one of the first real indicators of Yato's past, much in the same way that Jine was. In some ways a representative of that past.
I feel like the
Right.
encounters with Bishamon were more indicative of Yato's past before this, because Rabo feels more like Shishio Makoto to me. Like his entire presence is just, I am the dark mirror of you.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
Only one problem: he doesn't smell like smoke.
No, but he does cover a lot of his body, including his face.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of his face, and not as much of his face as Makoto, but still.
Yeah, when we were doing the watch party, I did joke about whether or not the writers were inspired by Rurouni Kenshin. I was already making the joke early on when it came to the flashbacks, but here I felt it was I felt I had to double down.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
understandable.
And it's not. The big thing is that Rabo, and this is another important thing. Rabo, as we find out, wasn't a god initially. He was a human who just loved to massacre on the battlefield and fought alongside Yato as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually being caught up and murdered and then turned into a god of calamity.
Yeah.
But getting back to the matter at hand, after his ablution, Yukine clearly has turned a new leaf and is trying to make up for what he did, taking a part-time job at a food stand and also borrowing some of Hiyori's old textbooks so he can at least make some attempts at learning.
A part-time job at the food stand at Kofuku's temple. The Odin stand at Kofuku's temple.
Which,
He helps out Daifuku.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's his and not not Kofuku's thing, they're actually able to make money. 'Cause,
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
but at the same time, Tenjin gives a suggestion to Yato about about severing ties with Hiyori to try and undo the whole half Ayakashi thing, which Yato rejects outright.
Mm-hmm.
But
He's gonna find another way.
Meanwhile, you have Hiyori inviting the two of them to meet up for the New Year's festival, but they end up getting derailed because of a bunch of scorpion phantoms that Rabo had set out. And they're not the only ones, because later Hiyori gets attacked by wolf phantoms wearing very strange masks
That are summoned by Nora.
Mm-hmm. And when they finally are able to meet Hiyori, for whatever reason, she no longer remembers Yato. So that whole sever ties little Chekhov's gun actually went off.
Yep.
Sort of.
Inadvertently, yeah.
Yeah. Because after this point, she stops falling out of her body.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Yato and Yukine afterwards try to see if they can bring her memory back, which included Yukine making a picture book.
No, Yato making the picture book and Yukine making the last page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But because Yato's the one who has the art, remember?
Yeah, even putting on a French auteur hat.
Yeah.
He put on a beret. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which,
But
as an aside, I fucking hate berets.
pretty good depending on who they're on.
I had to wear one for a cosplay once in the summer. I feel Zach's pain. I feel Zach from Mike Burnfire's Pain when he talks about having to wear one when he was at Fort Polk.
Mm.
For those of you who don't know, Fort Polk is in Louisiana.
Yeah.
So imagine having to wear a beret that's tightly over your forehead in Swamp Central.
Not fun.
You're going to be sweating profusely.
Mm-hmm.
Sweating balls, as they usually prefer to it.
Yes.
But-
Sweaty balls.
But it's revealed that Nora had stole Hiyori's memories and put them in a jewel. And
Because she's a spiteful bitch, or is an expert at mind fucking.
both.
Uh,
The answer is yes.
And
Thank you.
it's also revealed that Robbo has taken Nora as a regalia.
Well, had likely taken Nora as a regalia as far back as the Warring States period.
Mm-hmm. Just
Little
reclaiming
slut
it.
that she is.
yeah, reclaiming her.
And a lot of her powers revolve around water. At least in this form.
Yep.
Which Yato is put on the defensive, and Nora had states that if Yato can defeat Robbo, she will return Hiyori's memory. And
I know what some of y'all are thinking, because that's what we were thinking at the time.
Mhm.
If I can find the fucking button.
yeah,
No, I don't doubt her at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yato and Yukine try and bring back her memory in other ways. It
Again, the
doesn't
picture
work.
book.
Yep, it doesn't
Unsuccessful,
work.
yeah.
But Yato decides to follow Robbo to a shrine that does not exist anywhere.
This is the shrine that they show is a giant tree in the middle of what looks to be an old gravel pit quarry, with tori all around. As beautiful as the scene is, because it's really fucking cool, there is no such shrine in all of
No.
Japan.
No.
But it is good. It is going to be good for some sweet, sweet sakuga.
God damn,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
To quote Ego Raptor when he was good, this shit makes my dick rock hard.
But in the finale, we do have the confrontation with Yato and Robbo, especially with the revelations about Robbo and his relationship with Yato. But midway through, Robbo destroys the jewel, making
Which
Hiyori go unconscious.
makes Hiyori go catatonic. She
Because
becomes
the whole thing is that jewel would take more and more of her memories until she would become just a husk.
yeah. This was actually revealed when Yukine finished the last page on the picture book, read it all to Hiyori, gave it to her, and after it was in her hands, she's like, "Is this yours? Who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
Lost her memories as she was taking the book.
Mm-hmm.
She in a sense lost her marble.
Boo!
To be fair, pun.
To be fair.
Part pun. Fair. To be part pun, part hook reference.
But after that, Yato ends up ends up really pissed, and it's at that moment that he ends up showing exactly why he was referred to as scary all those years ago.
Oh, long story short, he pushed a Yato button.
Shouldn't
Yeah.
have done that.
Done that.
He shouldn't have goddamn done that.
And the big thing about it is that when gods of calamity fight, they start generating phantom storms bigger than anything Kofuku has made by opening a vent. Like, every god across the city starts seeing this storm brewing and going, what the fuck is going on? We actually get cutaways to them asking, why is this happening? And I believe Tenjin even mentions, this is caused by gods of calamity.
Yep.
And this is because at this point, Yato is you've hurt somebody to the point that now I have to kill you. And Yato starts bodying the shit out of Rabo. It's not even a comparison.
It goes from... Actually, it kind of goes from Chris Jericho squashing the jobber to Chris Jericho losing to Action Andretti. Except Action Andretti is played by Brock fucking Lesnar.
But... And yeah, Rabo is so desperate to either continue or win the fight that he merges with that Storm Phantom.
Yeah, he absorbs all of the storm, all of the negative emotions, all of the phantoms within it into his other eye.
Which is a case of playing with not just fire, nuclear fire.
Yeah.
Super fucking Nova.
Mm-hmm. But apparently what is able to bring back Hiyori's memory was Yato protecting her from a boulder.
No, not that. Mm-hmm. He protects her from a boulder, yes, but it's not the protection that brings her back. She's like, what is this? What is this smell? It's my favorite smell. There's been this foreshadowing throughout the whole series that Hiyori can find Yato faster than any other god because she knows what he smells like.
She follows her nose.
And as I've pointed out before, the whole smells good thing to phantoms was hinted at, first of all, by Hiyori as a half phantom. Mm-hmm. Before even the other phantoms started saying smells good. It's because of Yato's smell.
Yep.
Yeah. And so Yato's all the gods smell pleasant in some way or another, but it's unique to each god. Mm-hmm. And Yato's smell brings her back to herself, but also embarrasses the ever-living hell out of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Which, of course, causes her to, in the middle of our big bad Sakuga battle, give Yato a face punch because, well, you got to have your humor to break the tension every so often. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But in the aftermath, Rabo ends up dying, content that he was killed by Yato.
Yeah.
And in the aftermath, Yato ended up telling Hiyori that she'd be happier if those ties were severed, but she refuses. Which is a wish that Yato accepts for 5 yen. Which is a nice little capstone of things.
Yeah, it's a bookend from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are a couple OVA episodes, but we didn't catch them because they're not narratively important. They're just a couple of gags. One of them
they're non-canon.
The first one is it deals with Yato possessing Hiyori's body and doing antics.
Jesus!
He advertises himself through Hiyori's body.
Mm-hmm.
Not the kind of antics that you're worried about, but still pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly aggressive advertising, the kind that would make you cringe. The other one is Hiyori inviting everybody together for a flower viewing party, but this involves Yato and Bishamon being in the same run.
Oh fuck! Oh fuck!
At first, they decide to have a drinking contest. Then the fight starts.
Herb or Always Sunny, guys? Because at this point,
Always Sunny.
Thank you.
This is absolutely.
You can imagine it. Like, sworn enemies start drinking.
Absolutely an Always Sunny moment.
Yep.
Yep.
And and of course, that's going to escalate into a brawl that ends the party. Because if you have drinking in a show, especially in a public place, it's only a matter of time before the bar fight happens.
Yup.
Yeah.
Especially when you got two people who already are at each other's throats. And barely tolerating each other. Add alcohol, and they ain't tolerating each other no more.
No, we've all seen westerns when somebody has too much whiskey. But that is how this particular season ended, and I do want to note when it comes to the opening and ending, the ending is what you'd expect. It's the main thing that the main imagery that comes to mind is all of the light snow and how much it makes me laugh. The opening, all that I have to say to that is blue, dabba dee dabba die.
No, you don't.
Okay, I wouldn't compare it to that, honestly.
No, I'm saying there's a whole lot of blue. I was comparing it to Persona 3's opening.
Oh, you're talking visual-wise.
Oh,
Okay, visual-wise, I agree.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I will say, the
yeah.
song, Goya no Wachiwase, I fucking love that song.
It's a fucking banger.
Yeah.
It is an absolute
Yeah, it
banger.
is.
I actually have Nate Wants to Battle's cover of that song on my Spotify playlist because he does a great cover of that song, and it fucking rocks. If you have not heard Goya no Machiwase, please listen to it. You will not be disappointed.
And the ending is sort of feel good, sort of melancholy, and causes a lot of mood whiplash on earlier episodes.
Yeah.
But then is strangely appropriate for everything after episode 7. I swear to fucking God.
First half, we needed a neck brace. After that, less so.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up because of I know it gets annoying and we keep bringing this up a bit, but we keep bringing this up almost every episode. But musical identity is important.
It is.
So, as annoying as it is that we keep bringing it up, I'm gonna keep bringing it up until someone ties me down and forces me to stop.
And
Or
it
unless
sure as
somebody
hell ain't
pays
gonna
you
be any
enough.
of us.
No.
Now, question: did you guys watch the sub or dub?
We
Dub.
watched the dub.
Yup.
Okay, my thoughts on the dub. For the most part, really solid. You know, Brent April as Hiyori, great job, loved it. Micah Soulside, considering he was still riding the high of Soul Eater around the time this came out, definitely the perfect choice for Yukine.
Mhm.
I'm admittedly kind of 50-50 on Jason Liebrick as Yato.
No, he, as someone who's seen both, and we both have, he is definitely the proper tone for Yato for a non-Japanese speaking, or at least non-sub watching audience.
There is one nitpick that I have to bring up, and I said I was going to bring up when it comes to the localization.
It's 2014, people. There's no need to call
know what
takoyaki
takoyaki is.
octopus dumplings.
Yeah. Okay,
Where's
I gotta
my
call that
liquor?
out, definitely. Anyway, as far as like the side characters go, yeah, when you mentioned Kofuku, Alexis Tipton, definitely got that cutesiness to her.
Oh, definitely.
Elizabeth Maxwell, I swear, she has been made for just aggressive female characters because she kills, she fucking nails it as Bishamon.
Mm-hmm.
And a rare moment of calmness for Eric Vale as Kazuma.
Yeah, he's usually like the upbeat male characters, but no, he voices this like stoic and laid back character in Kazuma.
And he does a fucking good job.
Oh yeah.
Like with the big thing here, I have to say, Shades, is the difference between the sub and the dub is I think the dub puts a little more emphasis on the the comedy aspect of each character in order to break up how serious most of Noragami actually is.
Yeah,
so,
no, I agree. I think that's what's throwing me off is that Jason's voice as Yato just felt off to me because of that, especially as the series goes on.
They wanted him to keep the lighthearted comedy going on, but go watch him do any of his actual slaying of phantoms, and don't tell me that he hasn't got the Yato part down of Yato.
Oh, no. That's why I'm saying 50-50. Like, there are times where he really fucking nails it, and then there are times it just felt off. Like, I would never say he was bad at the role.
I think it was a case of a slow start. It took him a bit of time to get to settle into the direction.
Yeah. But once he got into the swing of things, he definitely really started to shine.
Whereas with the Yato in the Japanese sub, he does have the comedy, but the guy's voice, the vocal quality, first of all, is a little deeper and a little
Hiroshi Kamiya.
Yeah, it's a little sharper, is the best way, I guess, to put it. And so even when he does the comedy, you can still get that underlying tension in his voice. And then, of course, when we get to the action, he's just fucking on it. But I do admit that the tone, even with the comedic overview, the tone of the Japanese dub track is much more serious. If we're looking at percentages here, Japanese dub is like a 30% comedy to 70% seriousness with the directions it takes, and English dub is like a 60-40 of 60% comedy, 40% serious.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of watching the sub first because I didn't have access to the dub when I first saw Noragami. But so when I went back and watched it in the dub, I was like, took me a little while to get the hang of it. But like I said, that's really the only nitpick I honestly had, aside from the takoyaki shit, because god damn it.
But it's 2014. We know what takoyaki is.
Yeah. Everyone else in the voice cast was freaking on point, though. Like even like Lauren Landa as Nora. I've been 50-50 on Lauren Landa. There's a couple roles she's done where I wasn't quite sold, but this one, no, she fucking killed it. She fucking killed it.
So, with that said, I think it's high time we move into our final judgments.
All right. Good brothers and sisters that are currently watching this august body, and good brothers of the Parliament, we come down to our final determination regarding the first season of Noragami. Since it is your grand return, to you, Brother Shades, I give you, is it weeb or is it scrub?
Oh, my dear brother! When I originally reviewed this anime, I gave it one of the highest ratings I had at the time. And I still hold true to that feeling that I gave this the platinum seal. Because I feel that the story, the characters, the composition and music, the animation, everything about it was solid. I could find very little wrong with the story with this series as a whole. Aside from nitpicks here and there, and even that's mostly on the dub end, everything about this series is solid. And I can promise you, it only gets better from here. But for this series, I absolutely 100% dubbed this series to be weeb!
Alas, there we have, with his grand return, Brother Shades announced Noragami as weeb. Moving on to our illustrious newcomer, Brother Flutter. Be it weeb or be it scrub?
Seconded.
That's all it needs to be said. Flutter dubs Noragami as weeb. Brother Matty, what have you for us?
Didn't get too much time to talk. I will simply say this. This one, I had a hard time grasping at it at first. It was not the easiest thing to get involved, to get emotionally involved, for lack of better terminology. But it's got a sense of humor. I mean, obviously it's got a sense of humor. It's got a badass ending. So it's not full marks, but you know what? on a weeb to scrub situation, oh, it is weeb.
And with that, Brother Matty has declared Noragami weeb. Monk, what say you?
Now I had some passing familiarity with Noragami up until this point, but I should note, not only was I able to enjoy a lot of it, even if I kept making jokes about how sometimes excessive the let's pick on Yato can get. As funny as it is, like, Jesus Christ, does the universe just hate this man?
Is this redundant?
That's a rare one for me. I'm happy.
But even with that, the only problem that I had was some whiplash going into the endings, and overall, it is a very solid series. One that I do think those who are interested in mythology can get a lot more out of than anyone else.
Yeah.
That is not to say that you need to have a knowledge of Shintoism in order to get something out of this series. It's just that if you do, you'll be able to get more out of it.
They keep it simple for you, though.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I made the scavenger hunt reference earlier on in this broadcast. I still maintain that somebody on the sound design team was taking some notes from Lotus Juice, especially during some of the battle music.
Yeah, I noticed that myself.
It's not a full on. It's not. I know. I'm not gonna say it's similar to the stuff he was doing for the Persona animations, but there's some DNA overlap. I'll put it that way. But even with all of that, there's the only rating I can really give is weeb.
All right. You've heard the monk speak. His rating is weeb. As for myself, Noragami is a diamond in the rough in many cases. Not a lot of people noticed it when it was airing. It got more notoriety as time went on, at least in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
The manga itself is also very enjoyable. Also, the manga arcs right now are I'm biting my nails type things. But that's spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
With this show, the massive references to Japanese culture and specifically Shintoism were a gem for me. I'm someone who has wholeheartedly dived into researching any surface topic about Japan that I can from a young age. And so seeing my own efforts rewarded was definitely a boon for this show. The thing I think I noticed most, which isn't something most people would notice unless they actually studied Shinto and Buddhist mantra formation, is how the words, specifically in the Japanese dub, are used during certain regalia powers, and of course, during Ayakashi banishment. While it is not taken directly from any Buddhist or Shinto mantra, it is structured very similarly to how it would be. The only way it could have gotten better is if Yato had said the words in Sanskrit instead of Japanese.
Asking any voice actor in either language to start pronouncing Sanskrit is a bit of an ask, though. So
yes, which is why the Shinto still use Japanese for their mantras. But it is that particular attention to detail that really, really drew me into the series, especially when you look at what happens when Ayakashi are killed, and you're like, what is that? Are those just lines? And then you start to look at it, like you pause it and you take a real good look, and it's vertical sets of characters And then you take a closer look, and you can even identify those characters, and you decide to painstakingly draw them with your mouse in a draw kanji lookup dictionary. No, I didn't do this. How could you tell? That you then have ignore stroke order, because if you're doing the stroke order wrong, it'll never find the right kanji anyway. And you realize these are fucking names. And at that point, it all clicks. You're like, oh, that's the name of everybody they've ever eaten. Got it. Yeah. That's the name of all the souls that have just been purified and sent back into the cycle of reincarnation. Got it. And it's really... Monk says scavenger hunt. To me, it was a treasure hunt, an archaeological dig. I am Indiana Jones, and everything of that belongs in a fucking museum. So just that alone is enough for me to rate this. But with the sound design as well, as Monk has put forth, there's a very distinct, unique, and engaging musical design with this show. And he said it. I'll say it. Yes, we harp on musical identity because musical identity is important. If you don't have a good musical identity, you either end up with something that doesn't detract from your show, such as the very generic soundtrack of our very August pilot. But if your identity is really bad, you do end up actually bringing your work down. And with all of that, I cannot give this anything more than weeb. And with that, a vote of 5 weeb and no scrub. This Parliament finds Noragami, the first season, to be weeb.
And even if the wheel does not land on season 2, which don't count on that, I can easily see myself diving headfirst into season 2 on my own.
I will tell you this right now, as someone who has watched season 2. Set your expectations accordingly, but if you like season 1, season 2 will be better for you.
In all ways but one.
Mm-hmm.
I
will keep an eye on that if the situation calls for it. But with that said, it is time to spin the wheel, make the deal.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
So let's see what we're doing next.
Yay.
Come on, Bubblegum Crisis. Come on, Bubblegum Crisis.
He really wants
you.
This.
Always with you.
It's me.
Obsolete is our next series.
Show it on the screen, Monk. They're not going to believe us otherwise.
I am not setting up screen share.
Fuck!
Maddie, there were over 70 anime to choose from on the wheel.
I know. Oh.
And while I'm at it, I realized that Noragami was supposed to be auto-removed, and that didn't happen. So I took care of that.
Right.
So obsolete, which will be an easy one to go with because because all of the episodes are on YouTube.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a web series.
Mm-hmm. Also, we will have our first anime involving the Butcher.
Oh God!
Oh
No.
No!
He's not the director. He is the draft plan and series organizer.
Oh, thank God!
But we are dealing with mechs.
Which is the greatest!
We finally have a mecha series for the Parliament. So once again, we can throw that age-old Mecha is dead in the West remark in Gigak's face, because I am a petty motherfucker.
One of these days, Gigak will take the L. One of these days.
He's probably too busy being self-conscious about about enjoying edgy anime. And JT saying that it's a strange mecha series. I am no stranger to strangeness with mecha as somebody who spent way too much time with a lot of those early Super Robot mecha.
Right.
And have called certain people out when they act like nothing happened between Mazinger and Gundam. Which, for the record, I know everyone's entitled to their opinion, but if you act like Gundam magically saved the mecha genre, you're a fucking idiot, and you don't know your history.
Mm-hmm.
But there's already a very well-designed documentary that goes over the history of a lot of 70s mecha, as well as how mecha ended up saving anime in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a story for another time. We'll be back here in 2 days to do the TGA Hangover stream. As mentioned on Sunday, we are not going over any of the awards. We don't do that here.
We're only going over the reveals.
Only going over the reveals and other shit that I happened to find while doing my usual digging. Including one thing that I thought was a game but is an anime that makes a small part of me smile.
And we will continue, and we will have there anyway because fuck it, why not?
Mm-hmm. Even though there's a better visual already out, but I already have one I already have one bit of footage, so I don't need it. And JT says that he's seen Gaiking. Oh yeah, the thing that got Go Nagai pissed off.
Oh yeah, I remember that story.
I shared Gaiking with you a while back, and Go Nagai thought that was trying to rip him off, and he sued Toei over it. And looking at the design, I can see why he would say that.
Literally, all they did was give it a chest face and horns. Otherwise, it's fucking Mazinger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Mazinger. Yeah.
But again, that is a story for another night. So until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.